Are you in Cape Town, by the way, or Joburg?
Let's start with hello.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. Hello. How are you?
Hello, Noah. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
So we're going to do this fantastic project that we've dreamt up.
Yes. Can you? Yes, go for it.
So what we thought is at the SANATA meeting, which we'll maybe talk about in a little while, is that we would, I'm just turning off my phone, is that we would start our piece of research as part of the research committee with actually getting to know each other a little bit. So this is a little bit of an inspired idea, and we're not really sure where it's going to go or how to, how it's going to unfold. But the basic idea is, if we are part of SANATA, which is the South African Arts Therapies Association, which is new, fairly new, then it would be a nice thing just to have these short video clips of each other and slowly get to know each other.
Yeah, so that absolutely is a great idea, and really to keep it informal is something we spoke about, just a way to have people say who they are, what we all are up to. And I'm curious how this might link to the research side of it, or the SANATA relevance.
Sure. Well, for me, the first piece of research is who are you and who am I? Because if we can't have researched each other, then how are we going to even begin to know about this field that we're in? So for me, the first piece of research is to understand the work that we're doing, try and create more of a sense of awareness around all the arts therapies. And so, maybe a little bit of context is that the arts therapies are, it's a term for music therapy, dance therapy, or movement therapy, you could say, rather, drama therapy and art therapy. It's like a catch.
Right.
What could you call it? It's an organization that's holding all of those people.
An association, yes, of all the different. And I love the way that we are now called professions, that these are different professions in the arts therapies. It feels like this whole process that I've actually come into fairly recently, having been away from South Africa for a little bit, is really about promoting, elevating the status of arts therapies to where it is in some other countries, but where it hasn't got to as yet in South Africa. And certainly amazing things seem to be happening, including getting our own being registered as arts therapists for a start, as opposed to the history of under occupational therapy. So, and I love this idea. So I've come on board with you to support this idea. I'm more of a writer myself, so I initially was wanting to have little blurbs or little pieces that people could write whether they felt comfortable to speak about it or write about it. Some people might have different preferences, but maybe we can work together in free flow with how that happens as the first research project being this, who are we? I think that's a great idea. And also maybe, just seeing what the different ways are that we all are practicing, and hopefully out of this also inspiring people to go, hey, well, is there something we can contribute? That's an interesting angle. Are you writing about it? Have you considered doing something with it? So this, who knows where this might lead, but I think it's a great idea. Yes.
Yeah, well, why don't we jump into a little bit of you, and then you can ask me about me.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about you, your background, your training, where did you study, what are you doing now, all those things.
So I'll start with background. I started out, my first career was as a professional ballet and contemporary dancer. And I thought I invented the field called movement therapy until in my first year at UCT studying psychology, when I stopped dancing, I met a woman who said, oh, you can study dance movement therapy. So for me, that was everything. And that was way back in about 1999. And I started my master's degree in 2000. And I was fortunate enough to go study at Naropa University in Boulder, in Colorado, in the States.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, spent my 3 years there.
Lovely.
I have a fascination with mindfulness, and I was already a yoga practitioner and a lot of interest in Eastern and Western views. So Naropa was absolutely my first choice. And that has remained me, is dovetailing mindfulness and, in this case, bringing awareness to what I've come to call body mindfulness, which is my passion for having been a dancer and realizing that the body is such a vehicle for our psychological shifts and how we're feeling, and we can proactively use our bodies. So it's been an area that's taken me in various directions. So that's my background with it. Having come back.
So what was your master's?
Studying,
what was your master's actually in? Was it movement therapy?
Dance movement therapy. Therapy. And they called it somatic psychology. That's become more of an umbrella term, which is the body-mind connection in psychology, with a specialization in dance movement therapy. And on coming back, I spent 11 years training a course in somatics, in counseling and coaching and psychology, through the South African College of Applied Psychology. Okay. So that allowed me, which is SACAP, that allowed me to really hone, and I love the education piece of it, and bring and or reorganize. I feel it was like a feast of learning that I experienced at Naropa, and to be able to share it and continue to upskill and keep reading about it. And the last few years, I've changed direction a little bit and taken some time to write the book that I've had in my mind and inspiration for a long time, called The Mindful Body.
Wow, that's exciting.
And so for me, therapist, I feel like I'm more focusing on bringing the body or body awareness into the general public sphere as a wonderful resource for promoting mental health. And so with lots of practical tools, and it's a little bit of self-help psychology with a very body-oriented feel. So that's been where my life has taken me so far. And
okay, exciting. And where are you based? Where do you live?
So I'm based in Cape Town, and my practice is, I do run a private practice from Cape Town, although nowadays with Skype, we all tending to see clients all over the place, and I've lived in a few different countries, so that's definitely become a new avenue that wasn't available some years ago. And yes.
Okay, wonderful. So are you in private practice? You're basically in private practice in Cape Town.
Yes, private practice, and also with I also feed into the corporate space. So I've worked for quite a few years with different projects in the spaces of wellness, corporate wellness, facilitation, leadership development, working in partnership with a couple of companies. So that also is an area that I really love to work with. So I guess my focus is on a high functioning population, whether it's in the corporate world or offering skills into the general public, more in the self-help space, which is often, you're not able to do that if you do need a little bit more support. But yes, resources to help empower anybody. So that's my summary of what comes.
Do you take your somatic work into corporates?
That is my next leap. So it's been a very peripheral aspect of the way that I work, little body breaks or ways that I facilitate or ways that I give tools, resources for stress management. And my next step is really to design a real focused program. There's a whole new field called physical intelligence, which adds to the previous fields of emotional intelligence or our usual IQ. I think his name is Howard Gardner, wrote about these intelligences many years ago. And there's a wonderful awakening now with awareness of physical intelligence. Or into the field of mindfulness and bringing a body angle. So those are exciting new directions that I'm thinking around and developing products around at the moment.
Oh, wonderful. So when can we expect your book?
My book is out. My
Oh,
book
is
is in exclusive books or online. It's available internationally. It's called The Mindful Body.
Wow,
That was released in
congratulations.
2018. Thank you. Thank you very much. And that's been a whole new world of learning about media, and which was actually why I put myself forward for this particular portfolio in the health, for arts therapies, because I have a little bit of exposure of what that was all about, to begin to take a product and get it out there, of course, with the help of the publisher and all of their support staff.
Okay.
So, yes.
So can you give us just a little bit of a summary of what's in your book for those of us that might want to look at it or buy it?
The Mindful Body, the subtitle is Building Emotional Strength and Managing Stress with Body Mindfulness. It is about practical tools and various ways that you can support yourself to become more, feel better inside of your body, to promote wellness, happiness, as well as processes for working through difficult emotions or learning about how we carry our history inside of our bodies and some ways that we might support ourselves. So everything is broken down into practical strategies or processes that we could follow on our own. And of course, there's always recommendation if things are difficult, if situations feel challenging, to, of course, seek support, seek professional support to go along with it. My hope with the book is that it is empowering and inspiring and helps people realize that there's something that they can do simply with the breath that can be taken, simply with a postural shift or a way that we honor how our bodies are holding our experience, and taking a moment even just to feel, wow, I feel really slumped over and closed in today. Even that presence towards that posture can feel relieving and acknowledging in some way that can be very helpful. Yeah,
wonderful.
So
and do you have a copy of the book that you can show us, or not?
Yes,
not really.
I do.
Oh,
there we go.
wow.
That's
okay,
it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge achievement.
Thank you. I'm feeling quite proud about. Well, I've been on a journey with it over the last year or so, and I have a foreword from my professor, one of my main professors, called Christine Caldwell, who taught me in the States many years ago, and a lot of support from all over for it. So I'm feeling I feel very proud, and it's also a whole new world and quite scary as well to begin to take a product out there and to begin to step into new ways of being in the world, I guess, promoting things in a greater way. Because for me, my personal inspiration is to share skills with many people, for example, through these books, to reach people that I might never know are reached, is something really inspiring. So that's also something I continue with. I'm already working with a publisher on a second book, and yes, that's very, very exciting.
So how much is your book for?
A lot of time writing.
How much does it cost?
It's around 257, I think it is, at exclusives, and you can find it online through all the regular channels.
Okay, wonderful. And do you have like a website and contact details if people want to get hold of you?
Sure, I do. So it's Noa Belling, that's NoaBelling.com. And I feed into my Facebook page, the Noa Belling Facebook page, much more regularly than my website. And that's got lots of interviews that are being conducted to hear more bite-sized versions of what the book's about. And I was even on TV in Australia when I was there launching it. My publisher is Australian in 2018. I'm
a celebrity, hey?
I don't feel like that most days. I think it's but it is something exciting me to be able to take a message to another level and to begin to stand up into something which is just something that I resonate with so deeply, and that came from me standing backstage and like feeling my normal nervous self and then stepping out onto the stage and adopting a different persona was so much part of my performance existence. And that shapeshift is something that I never thought about it with any relevance when I was doing it, when I was a dancer. But in the more I work in this field, I realize that that's a really, really powerful skill, to know that we can do it, to know that we can shapeshift, to know that we can bring this consciousness, more mindfulness, decide to project ourselves in different ways. And also there's the quieter side. If we might need introspective, quiet times. It's not all about projecting ourselves in the more outward life. It's also about how we manage our inward life as well. So yes, very
wonderful,
exciting.
very exciting. I think you should maybe post the link for the book inside the SANATA group, you know, so that
I will.
Everybody can get hold of it, at least if they'd like to.
Yeah, thanks for asking about all of that. I wasn't planning on speaking. I wasn't sure where this conversation would lead. Yes.
Yeah, wonderful.
Is there anything else you want to ask, or should we switch?
We can switch.
My question?
Absolutely, sure. You want me to introduce myself a bit?
So introduce yourself, how you came to the field. Yes.
Sure. So I am Amanda Gifford, and I did my master's in psychology, majoring in drama therapy at the California Institute of Integral Studies. So just sort of down the road on the West Coast from Boulders.
Interesting.
And I did a big search for the right place to go, because there was a group of us at UCT and kind of around, in the 80s, and sort of, looking into, how are we going to take, into the early 90s, how are we going to take this drama, theatre, the healing arts essentially forward? And of course, there was nothing in South Africa. And slowly but surely, the small group of interested people went overseas and found different places to study. And mine was San Francisco, because I was really interested in the transpersonal healing fields, and also in the consciousness research. And the institute was just incredible. I mean, it also had all of the, a PhD in consciousness type people around. So Stan Groff and Rick Tarnas and all of the somatic people and the arts therapy people. And it was just a very integral, like they said, an integral place to study. So I was there for 4 years, and then came back to South Africa as sort of with my drama therapy. And there was really no training and no supervision or mentorship, no peers, that kind of thing in the drama therapy field. So what I ended up doing is sort of looking around to see where I could find something that would like hold me and contain me. And just find a bit of a community. And what I did find was Family Constellations. And Family Constellations became a little bit of my backbone in my work. So I did an additional 4 years of training in Family Constellations after my master's, and I just really loved it. I related to it, I understood it, that kind of thing. And it's also African based Family Constellations. So, I'll just give the background of it quickly.
I know there's an African wing of it.
Yeah, so a guy called Bert Hellinger came out from Germany in the 50s, thereabouts, to sort of bring religion to South Africa or to the South, and, ended up really, I suppose, maybe letting go of that and studying African traditional wisdom and being here, in Africa with the Zulus in KwaZulu-Natal for 17 years, and incorporating African traditional wisdom and the kind of Sangoma training and African ways, of healing and being kind of, in community. And he created this this hybrid form, I suppose, between what we would say is maybe a Sangoma lineage, and he mixed it with European psychologies, and that became, you know, what's known as family constellations today. And I use that as a big part of my practice.
Wow, I didn't actually know that family constellations had African roots. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting.
Comes from here, which is really nice, because I like to call it the African psychodrama, you know, psychodrama method. And it is a bit like that, with the kind of different, you know, theoretical standpoint. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit, but if you've got other questions.
Why don't you talk about that now for the flow of the conversation, and then I'll ask my other questions a little bit later, how you work today and integrate all the influences.
I think just thinking about a little bit about, I was trying to make notes because I you know, I work quite eclectically. I just need to look at my notes for a minute. But I suppose, you know, one aspect of my work is around, you know, how our consciousness and the way that we've internalized reality creates the nature of our experience. And so, you know, family constellations, in a similar way to psychodrama, although psychodrama has a slightly different application. But family constellations allows you to really look at what you've internalized to some extent, you know, externalize it, kind of see how you know, what's going on in your system and your reality, and then re-internalize it. And there's many ways to talk about that, because it's also a systemic, a family systems therapy as well, intergenerational. So there's a lot to say about that. But in family constellations, they talk about tapping into this, what they call the knowing field, which is basically the sea of consciousness that we sit in. And, you know, we project into and we internalize inside of us. And, you know, we actually have access to know things if we just become present with what's happening for ourselves. And there's a great science behind it. So the morphogenic or morphogenetic field, as Rupert Sheldrake, who's the scientist and the biologist behind it, speaks about that. And he says, you know, we live in this field of consciousness and information and imprinted kind of memory that's always shaping and creating the reality in which we live. And what we can do is, if we want to, we can become conscious with the memory that is coming from past perceptions, and we can reorganize that. We can recode it, we can re-perceive it, we can re-embody it, you know, so that the coding and the memory comes in a different way to us, and that would change the way that our reality is flowing. So that's, you know, just a little bit. There's, I mean, wonderful, wonderful work and science behind it. But
it's fascinating,
very
absolutely fascinating. And I'm also struck by a connection, which is something that I'm hoping also maybe noticing might come out of these interviews, is such an interesting overlap between our interest areas of the knowing field and mindfulness in a way, and with family constellation. And I know for my little that I've encountered drama therapy, and I'm sure with the other arts, that there's all these overlaps that we might think we're actually different professions, and there are so many overlaps, so many ways. I've stood in a family constellation and embodied the experience of different family members, and it's an absolute somatic art as well. So I'm also struck by that, and absolutely aware of how magnificent and exciting this work can be, and what an amazing facilitation of change it it can be.
Yeah.
I'm curious who you work with. Yeah,
sure.
say more, and then I'm curious who you apply your work with.
I could speak for hours and hours on the science of this, of this, knowing field, this morphogenetic field, because it's really, it's, deep and advanced, and we are only just getting to know the true, the deeper self, in a way, the deeper, more multidimensional self that we have with many greater abilities to tap into knowing ways forward, knowing how to heal ourselves, many things. There's a lot to say about that, but I probably won't have the time now. But you can ask me about, you want to ask me about my clients?
Anything you feel, I'm just curious. Yeah, before I get there, because there was so much inspiration there, I just want to know if you're feeling drawn to just pull out one little morsel to share more, just to feel complete, or you're ready to move on to your clients. See if there's one more piece you might want to offer.
I think, the difference, I guess, between what you would say is maybe a psychodrama methodology is that psychodrama is, you would say, like intrapsychic, like within yourself, you're reorganizing perception. So you're really working with the window of your own outlook, your own perceptions, you reorganizing that. And so it's the voice that person represents that's inside of you, you change your perception. And that shifts you. But in family constellations, it's slightly different to that, even though, it can have a similar outcome. They talk about it's actually like a direct channeling, you could say, almost, of that ancestral energy. So you can actually have, a person picking up the energy of like a parent that's gone, coming through them. So that's where the Sangoma, African lineage path for me is so valuable, that we can pull in those roots and those traditions, especially living here in South Africa. And also when people talk about ancestors, that it's not just human ancestors, it's the lineage of your masters and ascended masters and angels and guides and source energy and whatever your divine inspiration is and where you think you come from, that's also ancestral lineage that can be brought in to support. Fascinating. Which is beautiful. So I also do a lot of that work. So I do a lot of that, bringing in true origins, like just opening up our mind about who we really are.
Excuse me. Sounds really fascinating. And another paradigm in mental health, it's not necessarily a new paradigm. It actually predates our scientific paradigms of this bigger dimension and another way to achieve mental health, or as a way of looking at becoming more whole as human beings, as opposed to our dimension that we might dwell in for most of our stresses and daily responsibilities. So I find that comforting, actually. Thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure.
So who do you work with? Who are your clients?
Well, I've done a lot of work with, over the years. I've been in prisons. I've done plenty of NGO work. So working with HIV, caregivers, all like quite a wide range, psychiatric, that kind of thing. But at the moment, it's really also just high functioning individuals, that might come in with depression or, lots of things. I work with people who maybe are sick and they want to look at maybe the cause of their illness, what's the core message of the disease. And I've done great work with that. you can actually look at what the disease is trying to say, trying to bring, what is the message. And if you get the message, and you sometimes can let go of the disease and just fulfill the need that it's asking for. So yeah, lots of high functioning adults, stressed,
Okay.
needing to fall pregnant. I've taken people through, wanting to fall pregnant, actually falling pregnant, talking to the child through constellations in the uterus, helping them have conscious birth experiences, talking to the soul. How would you like to be born? What are you doing here? What's your purpose?
Sounds like you're a version of a Sangoma yourself, a place people will come to beholding through all sorts of challenges and life stages.
I guess, beautiful. Well, that's the transpersonal aspect. We have been so limited in our definition of what we can do. And in fact, with this idea of this knowing field, we have, we are in all places, actually, with our consciousness. It's just to unlimit ourselves a little bit more than what we have.
Right. And how can people get hold of you if they're interested to know more about your work? Where do you work from? Are you based in
Yes,
Cape
I'm
Town,
in Johannesburg. I'm in Johannesburg in the Fourways area. I've got a little sort of small holding with a beautiful space to work. And I run, private practice based, largely on also embodiment work, helping people tap into what it is that they need to know and need to wake up to. And then sort of twice a month, Family Constellations workshops. So the best way to get hold of me is really the website. Also, Amanda Gifford at Genius Lab. amandagifford.co.za. amandagifford.co.za. I think that's a good place.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So,
all right.
Yes.
So we know each other a little bit more now.
We do, and my eyes are opened. I'm really excited for this project. In the beginning, I felt a bit nervous. I've got a bit of a cold, so please excuse me one moment. Just going to blow my nose. I feel very excited actually about this project now because I've found it so interesting. I came in thinking, my goodness, I don't practice dance movement therapy traditionally, and I might not be the best person to interview, and yet hearing your story, and we all have our ways that we fell in love with this work and our ways that we offer, and I'm excited to get to know some more people in our profession, and I loved hearing your story, the little bit I'm definitely going to,
likewise,
either refer people.
Really nice to hear your story, and also maybe we can just put a little call out to people, the SANATA community, just to, what I think we're thinking of doing is to host some Zoom interviews similar to this, where we'll record you and you can come and share about your work, and then what we'll do is it will be available to the public. So we'll upload it onto a YouTube channel and then just share the link so that the community can watch it and get to know who you are. So we'll be maybe sending out some invites into the community for certain dates that work for you. And I think as we go, if there aren't dates that you can make that work for you, what I was thinking about this morning is the possibility that you just create your own little video that you can send to us. And then, we can upload that for you. And then we just try and get everybody to watch it and to keep it sort of up to, I think we've probably done about 15 minutes each, but not too much more than that.
And if people are feeling that they want to speak for shorter, you're most welcome to do that, just to bring your voice into the group and have your face be seen. And it could be a wonderful opportunity for us all to hear. And maybe we can also focus on different people or smaller groups of people at different times. I'm thinking of the amount of therapists out there. And so that might be something to consider, is focusing on these few therapists and being able to deliver the information and make it available in a way that's very accessible to
wonderful.
What do you think?
That's a great idea, Noah. And also, if you want to, at the bottom of the video, we'll just add a few of the questions that, just help people structure. And if there's any other links that are important to do, we'll just do that in the drop down of the video.
Perfect. Wonderful.
All right. So
thank you
as well
for the time, and I hope lots of people are willing to contribute.
Absolutely. All right, Noah. So we'll see you at the next interview, maybe hopefully with a couple of other arts therapists.
Yes. Wonderful. Thanks, Amanda. Love.
Thank you. Lots of
love. Get to know you a bit better.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.